I'd like to welcome everyone, and at this time, the 28th March 2022 Jackson County Commission meeting is called to order. At this time, I would like Mr. Manning, our county administrator, to please call the roll to establish quorum. Mr. Rich?
Present.
Mr. Venable?
Present.
Mr. Buckner? Present. Mr. McBride?
Present.
We do have a quorum. If we would all stand, I'd like to ask Mr. Porter, our county attorney, to please offer an invocation, and Commissioner Buckner to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's all pray together. God our Father, we're blessed to be citizens of this great country and of this great county. We look to you for all things and all answers because we know, thankfully, that you're in charge of all things. So we thank you for the blessings you bestow on us individually and as a community. We pray that if the storms come tomorrow or Wednesday, that they won't be as bad as predicted, and that we'll be protected from loss of life and loss of property. So just watch over us, God, and help us and save us. Be with us and those around the world that are in harm's way. We just pray for peace, that those that are fighting in Ukraine can come to some kind of solution and resolution to stop the fighting and stop the suffering of the people that are there. We pray you just watch over us and guide us every day. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your packet is the agenda for today's meeting. At this time, if I could get a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda passes. Do we have any awards or presentations today? We have none. We do have a public comment today. Three participants, citizens that would like to comment to us. We welcome you to do that, as we always do. That is a very important part of the opportunity that we have here in the county to listen. First, Mr. Leighton Olson. Sir, you have comments that you would like to make?
Yes, I would.
Okay, sir. We have a podium here with a microphone. I'm going to ask you a few questions, if I could.
Yes.
And this, for the purpose of just making sure we have a good record of your attendance today.
And I have a few little
Okay, sir.
pieces of material.
Okay.
I might be able to show it there.
All right.
No assistance, but yes.
Do you need assistance with that, or?
No, I think I can make it.
Okay, sir. I'm going to ask you just to state your name for the record.
My name is Leighton Olson.
Okay, and you are representing?
The Internet Public Trust,
Okay, sir.
which is really a broadband extension activity, for the last 20 years across the country.
Okay, sir. Thank you
And,
very much. And with that, you have 5 minutes, sir, to speak.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. A number of years ago, I worked with my brother-in-law, John Robinson, with a number of economic development issues, and with the people who are now in charge of Farmers Co-op. So I started working on economic development when I retired as an attorney. My wife and I, in the winters, are up around the Chicago area, and I'm a newcomer to this area, 40 years in DeKalb County. Live in Dawson, and my wife's family is Robinsons, as with her brother John Robinson in a series of parties there. And I've worked, in the whole broadband extension area, working around what are called digital economy areas, which in a section are community colleges, which in this instance means a cooperation between DeKalb and Jackson. And over about the last 5 years, I've worked with the EDA and the Emergency Management Association mapping people over in DeKalb County to develop some pilot maps so that people can see kind of everything. Whether you're 5 or 105, you can kind of see it, and that you see it within the context of a kind of a high school area. They have 9 high school areas, including one municipal, Fort Payne, similar to here, and then the others. At some point, I'd be glad to talk. I've spoken in the last number of weeks with a number of parties here in the emergency management, and they're doing a number of really interesting things. But I'm looking for persons who might want to pull it together to generate maps like this. This is the map for the 9 high school areas in DeKalb County, and they're illustrated by sub-watershed areas, and they're designed basically to work down through the K-12s, where every kid in the 3rd and 4th grade will create a map of the 1 mile around you. Here are the streams and the ponds, and when they let you use your cell phone, you can put a little rubber ducky on each one you went to. And so, and this is the kind of stuff for Auburn, to help through the county extension, blah, blah, blah. So this is the kind of thing that can help also for any high school area, basically, is all the darn towns. And then, 7 within Jackson would be the flip side of this. This is one side of the heart, the other side of the heart. And the other, you can also see this is Little River Canyon, which kind of sluices through and goes on down. And over here is Cherokee County, which is another watershed unto itself. So that basically every kid will grow up knowing their local watershed, which of course is better than the next watershed, which leads to the best basketball, the best football team, or whatever it turns out to be best at. So, and part of this is designed to work in cybersecurity through a whole lot of classes. I know you probably work a lot with Northeast Illinois Community College, and in each of these areas where people learn each of the steps in this process, including probably a number of people in this room, got some classes over there to kind of figure out what's next. And so these are called regional skill labs. That's a euphemism for a community college, which is backed up by Jacksonville State, which says, if you're a kid, and I can show you in here, and you want a drone, you want to run a drone, well, guess what you have to do? You first have to learn how to draw a map. Say, I just want to shoot the drone up. There's a few more steps. But it kind of helps people through whatever their path is. And the same thing over with Athens State. It's the regional ones. It's not so much the UAH or the University of Alabama. They got that whole set of things. They're not really regional. So that's the presentation. I'd be glad to come back and work with anybody that you think might want to help take some of these steps, and appreciate.
Well, sir, thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for what you're doing. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Olson.
Next up, we have Ms. Yvonne.
Yes.
Hey, I got it right. And I will ask you also a couple of questions. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yvonne Marchant,
Yvonne, thank you. And you are representing?
the Children's Place from the First United Methodist Church, and child care and parents everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. And ma'am, you also have 5 minutes.
Scottsboro is in a child care crisis, and it's about to get worse. There's a national crisis that has been developing for some time, but has now come home to this community. Several daycare centers have closed in the area, and by the end of May, the Church of Christ Center will shut the doors. They have 70 children. Those 70 children cannot all be added to the other centers in the area. First Baptist and Kids Kingdom have room for about 14 more children. The children's place at First United Methodist can only take a few more, and we already have over 100 on the waiting list. This will have an impact on the entire community because the parents of those children are healthcare employees, police, EMT, firefighters, not to mention all the service industries. If there is no child care, then the parents can't go to work. The new industries coming to town like Publix and TJ Maxx have already had placement agencies calling, trying to place their children in child care, and there's no room. What are we going to do? This is going to hit us June 1st. We don't have a place large enough to handle this crisis at the moment. If we could find a space and combine our resources, we might be able to work this out. We need to move fast and pull all of the community together, the large and the small employers, as well as local political leaders and state leaders. This is not just a Scottsboro problem. You can read the articles on Google News. It's been in newspapers and on all media sources. Child care facilities that have been open for 35 years are closing their doors. We can get ahead of the need if we come together with a goal of creating one large community child care center. We need partners to share the cost of making this happen. If everyone realizes the impact this will have on employees, then we will see how important this is to the bottom line. Moms and dads can't go to work if they don't have someplace safe, loving, and fun for their children. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions?
I've got a question. What are the minimum requirements to operate daycare? I mean, is there somewhere I can see that? Because I'm
Yes, you go to the
guessing.
Alabama DHR website, and it's on links, and the guidelines are there.
Okay.
It's the minimum standards guidelines.
Do you know the reason why our daycares are closing?
Same as everybody else is struggling with. The pay scale is low. The work is hard. The hours are long. It is challenging to work with lots of little people. And with inadequate staffing, it's hard. My ladies have worked overtime since December because I've got some ladies that have worked 88 hours, so 88 hours for 2 weeks since December.
So it's more pay scale and workforce, and lack of a workforce than it is any type of government regulations or any of that type stuff.
Government regulations have some effect, I'm not going to lie. For us, our building is old, and so because of the regulations that are there, we are enabled to have more. You're required to have a certain amount of space for your children, and there are certain regulations you have to have. I've got a whole upstairs right now that I was looking at. Okay, if I move my 4-year-olds upstairs and I move my after-school kids upstairs, can I open some more rooms and help people out? And so I'm looking at having to have an architect's stamp and a life plan. I'm looking at having to have an attorney to have exceptions to the ground floor rule. I am looking at having to install a sprinkler system. I am looking at having to install a security system. The cost of the security system will be $4,000. I've already got an estimate on that. I'm waiting for the estimate on the sprinkler system. And that's not talking about getting an attorney to argue the ground floor rule, which there was an exception made in Texas that said that the children could be on the second floor, but they had to have a separate exit for the older children, children above 7, and those that were younger. So, and I can actually make that happen in my facility, but yeah.
I've got another question. Are there any rules and regulations from Jackson County that are prohibiting or an obstacle for running childcare?
Not that I know of from the county.
Because as I was listening to you, I was hearing a lot of state and federal guidelines, and so, okay.
I will just remind that those rules are there for safety, and they're usually there because there was a need to create the rule.
Just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything local that was prohibited. Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, I want to say thanks for bringing this important issue to us, okay? And we really appreciate that. And I think we have another speaker on the same topic. So, Ms. Wood, if
that we don't have the numbers yet. We don't even know that we are able to take any on the top floor yet. And yes, no,
Okay.
none under 4.
so Ms. Wood, again, I would ask you to state your name, please, for the record.
My name is Cindy Wood.
And you also are representing,
I am at this time the chairperson for the board, for the Children's Place Board. And I've been with them a little over 3 years in that position. We started before COVID, and the issue was already there. It's nothing new. COVID just made it worse, of course. The reason why I wanted to speak was my vice chairman, Karen Suggs, she and I went to Huntsville. We were invited to come back in November of 2021. Huntsville, I think it was the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not totally sure about that, but they put together a discussion. It was called the Child Care Workforce Discussion. And what I got from that was they were asking corporations, companies, this is if they want people to come work, you got to provide. You guys, we're the same age. We've been dealing with child care for a long time. State government, federal government, it works okay, But from what I've gathered, just in my experience in these 3 years with this, and I'm a retired school teacher, if you want good quality care for your children, these teachers have to be trained and they have to be paid well, because it is a tough job. It's a 10.5-hour job a day. And so in order to fund this, and we can't charge a lot. All the child care in this community charges about the same, because in our community, most people make about, make the same. And so it's just a very difficult, fine line, razor edge budget that we are working with. And, we've had to increase our tuition, just like everything else is increasing, but we're not getting the workforce. Huntsville, Madison County, they're not getting the workforce. People don't want to, I shouldn't say that. People are not willing to work, I think, for the wages that they're being paid to take care of these children. And I've watched Vaughn and all these teachers they work so hard, but it's their heart, that does this. And I just think that they need more.
And it's double-edged sword the parent, if daycare costs them so much that, it benefits them almost zero to go to work when they
Exactly.
can stay at home and take care of their own kids and not have to pay for daycare. So,
whatever you decide as a parent, I just saw from being in the meeting that they had in Madison County, that they're looking for, companies. The government can do so much, but the partnership.
I know there was at least one major employer in Scottsboro right before COVID that was considering opening up their own daycare.
Mhm.
But then COVID happened, and I don't know if that kind of just fell apart for them, but I hadn't heard anything from them recently. Have you spoken to the chamber at all about this issue?
We have not yet. Tonight, our board meeting was to decide how to restructure our child care program to do it effectively. It is just really tough. I mean, if you're going to do something, you want to do it effectively, and we are wearing these teachers out. I'm sure they all feel that way.
If I could, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we appreciate you coming, like Chairman said, and bringing this to our attention. We don't have a lot of contact through the commission office with, people that own
Right.
the
I
businesses.
understand.
But we would be glad, I think the commission would be glad to help in any way we can, if we can host some type of meeting. Bill's very active in the chamber, was the chamber president. He may have a lot more insight into how.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, exactly that. One of the initiatives that the chamber is working on, and we could work with them on that, and certainly creating a forum in which to raise this issue up. But one of the initiatives they're working on is workforce development. But workforce development is going to be greatly impacted if we do not have the facilities for child care for workers to have a place to put their children. The father of 4, grandfather of 11, I understand the issue that you're dealing with. And we all do. We all have children and grandchildren. Well, some of the younger guys have grandchildren. Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe I'm the old guy.
As far as I know.
But your point is, it's an excellent issue that we have, and we've got to solve this. As we see more businesses move into the area, they're going to need employees, and if the employees can't find child care, they're not going to be able to go to work in these facilities and companies that we have. And I think as you say, I think we're seeing that already. With people taking jobs and having to step away from the job pretty quickly because of issues. So I think very good suggestion. I think we need to try to work with the chamber to establish a forum and bring this issue across the community. One other question. I'm sure you're reaching out across the county. Are there any child care facilities in any of our other cities or municipalities?
Okay.
One of the ones in Dutton just closed, and the parents started calling me asking if we had room. I haven't. No, I've been busy just trying to keep us going.
One at Skyline, I know.
Okay.
In Huntsville, they were talking, this was in November, there were a couple of them that were, that was their last straw.
Just the last comment on the chamber. We need to make this part of workforce development, not just the training of future employees, but how we take care of ensuring that we can sustain those employees. So just my thought. I agree with the comments we've had from the other commissioners.
Thank you for bringing that forward. I think it would be a great idea to maybe reach out, when you're talking to the chamber, maybe reach out to Smurfett, Stone, and Google, get them in their conversation. Be a great idea.
If I want to spend other people's money, there should be money available for the schools for before and after school tutoring, which is especially with the Literacy Act for the younger ages, which is where they're coming to you. And so I would encourage you to reach out to the boards of education and talk to them about the pressing need for because, we ran into problems where we couldn't get kids to come to after school. It sounds like that's absolutely where they need to be.
Maybe we can bring those, that group into that forum as well for the discussion. So again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, with that, no further comment. We'll move into the new business portion of our agenda. The minutes for our March 14th, 2022 meeting is in your packet. There was an adjustment made to the minutes. Ms. Johnson did submit those to all the commissioners for review. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes as provided from the March 14th, 2022 meeting?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Also, in your packet, we have a resolution. And that resolution is to set aside a portion of Commissioner McBride's salary. If you look at the resolution, it states that is to amend the budget. The resolution is made to amend the budget of the Jackson County Commissioner to administer and disperse the portion of salary to be forfeited by Commissioner Kevin McBride, District 4. It will be in accordance with the Alabama Code, and it is for a portion of his salary that exceeds the amount of $34,000 in any calendar year. So the resolution is there. The letter of request from Commissioner McBride is in your packet, and also you do have portions of the act provided for review. Do I have a motion to approve and to sign resolution to set aside a portion of Commissioner McBride's salary?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second that.
Have a second. Any discussion? And first, I would ask Commissioner McBride if he has any comment.
No, I mean, if you didn't know, there is a cap that's put on your salary if you retire from a job such as the school system where I worked 27 years. There's a cap in place where if you go to another business or job that pays into state retirement, you can only receive $34,000 as a cap. And so we would like to set that, or I want to set that money aside, put that into account to use at the discretion of the commission to do things in our community.
And I also noticed that we would, with this resolution, want to get back with you on any recommendations to get your concurrence and acknowledgement. Any other comments?
Yeah, I had posed a question to Mr. Manning. I think he had talked to the auditor. When we gave the employee raise and voted on the employee raise, we all passed the resolution and declined that raise, which was about $600 a year. That's about $3,000 for this panel. I didn't know at the time, but the position gets the raise, so the next commissioners that come in, if they decide to receive that raise, they will receive it. And I had asked Mr. Manning if we wanted to budget that. That's not a huge sum of money, but if that happens 5 or 6 times, it could become, and then you get a whole new group of commissioners come in, and all of a sudden you've got to do a budget amendment to cover the payroll. We don't have to have that discussion now, but I would like to have that discussion in the future. Do we want to, that forfeited pay, would it go in the same account, or do we just not budget for it, or would we put it in a separate account to budget for it?
Okay.
I think you had some discussion with the auditor, and there was no requirement to do so.
Right, they said there's no requirement, that it's individual type situation there. And that if you did want to do that, we could set that aside at any time as a budget amendment, like he had mentioned. So it wouldn't be a problem if the commission wanted to do that.
That'd be a good idea, just to put everybody's in the same account, and then whenever, need be fit to use the money on something out in the community or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that could be handled with a budget amendment, just like this one.
Okay. If no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Next, in your packet, you have a sheet from the bid opening whenever we open bids for our lawn maintenance care. We had two bids. You see the values of those bids there. In reviewing the bids in terms of lowest cost responsive bids, the lowest cost bid was as responsive as the other. So there was no differentiation there. So the recommendation from the bid opening and from our maintenance directorate is to accept the low bid. So with that, do I have a motion to award the lawn maintenance bid to the low bidder?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have
I'll
a second? We have a second. Any discussion?
Are both of these local landscaping companies?
Yes, both are local, yes, sir.
All right, and their bid was exactly the same, you know.
So they were right there, this is the same job, I mean.
No, I mean, but what they
did
have
on
promised to
this.
do is
Yes.
the same, so it's an apples to apples deal.
Scope of
There
work.
was a compliance to the scope of work, yes. And the scope of work was pretty thorough in its,
They all met our insurance requirements and
Yes,
everything.
insurance required.
What about rising fuel costs?
It doesn't change, that's for the contract for the year.
So it's a built-in price, no
Yes.
fluctuation.
Yes.
one note that with this bid, we must send a notice to the Ethics Commission. It is nothing other than that is a requirement that we do that. And it's just a form we fill out. It has nothing to do with any issues regarding this. It's just the requirement of the process.
Super close bid.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next in your packet, you have a contract with the top of Alabama Regional Council of Governments, Area Agency on Aging. It is a similar same contract we have signed for a number of years, and this one is because this year we are fortunate enough that TARCOG, in the disbursement of their American Rescue Plan Act funding, is allocating an additional $144,000 to Jackson County to carry out Council of Aging responsibilities and support for our citizens. You will see the effective date runs through February 2022 through the end of the fiscal year. And you see the amount on page 3, $144,851. The services are the same services that we provide with our other contracts. Do I have a motion to approve TARCOG ARPA funds contract?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Any discussion?
I've got one question. I mean, this is good on the American Rescue Plan Act money, but has anybody looked forward in the future of what's going to take place when this money dries up? I mean,
Well-
we're going to be in the same situation.
So this,
The daycares are.
yeah, the objective of this money, in terms of the discussions with TARCOG, is they would like us to use this money to improve facilities.
Mhm.
Rather than spending it on food items or things that are perishable, spend it on things that has long-term benefit to our citizens. I do believe that's a very good recommendation on that part, because that has long-term benefit for us.
Under our current 2022 budget, we did not reduce the funding that we put into our council on aging.
No, it was a contract of value as well.
So we were mindful of that when we started 2023,
Yes.
that we're very careful not to reduce our obligation.
Absolutely.
Because we don't want to get, like Mr. Rick said, you know, when it goes away, we have a shortfall.
Okay, let me ask before we go to vote, Mr. Coleman, do you have any comments regarding this?
Just basically what you said. Tarcog, and I've actually got a director's meeting tomorrow in Huntsville with Tarcog tomorrow afternoon, and this is going to come up again. They want us to use it for revitalization. Any equipment we need, freezers, stoves, refrigerators, exercise equipment, painting, flowers outside, signage for the buildings, things like that. And also the question of Bryant has come up.
Mm-hmm.
We're in discussions with them on that, if we can utilize some of this funding to help the Bryant Senior Center. So hopefully I'll have answers for that tomorrow. Yes or no. They're looking into that for us.
And we did our quarterly meeting with Tarcog. We raised that to our Tarcog representative that she would check about.
Yeah, we've been hitting them pretty hard.
Any new news on the Bryant? I mean, will they be able to assign the deed over to us, or is that
No, the latest that I was told was the deed owner will not change that clause in the deed.
Okay.
So that rules out pretty much everything we've discussed previously.
It rules out the things we've discussed in terms of
New building, purchasing the building,
or rehabilitating the building with our funds.
USDA loan, which they can't even go. You know, we couldn't go get it, now they can't go get it.
Right.
And another option we got would be paying them rent, and then we'd be obligated. I mean, if we're gonna do it for one, we'd have to do it for all. I mean,
That, or
something.
you still can relocate, that's still an
Right.
option, somewhere in the Bryant community. Or hopefully I'll get an excellent answer tomorrow, and we'll be able to
Right.
utilize these funds to fix the building up.
Good.
But then it becomes a question of capital improvements, you know, so they're checking into all that.
Mhm.
And hopefully I'll have an answer, and as soon as I do, I'll shoot an email and let everybody know.
Appreciate you.
I will say thanks to Mr. Coleman, because he has chased every time an option dries up, he's chasing
I
something
got a lot of
else.
laps in.
Did you try any in Tuscaloosa? There might be some avenues there. Just a thought.
Okay,
I just went to the other side of the state.
I think we're done with discussion.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's no further discussion, you have a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We have two job positions that we have gone through hiring committee reviews, and they have made selections. Letters are in your file for those positions. The first is the committee's recommendation for the vacant HMT 3 position at Public Works Department. The letters, I said, is there for your review.
I make that recommendation.
So we have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation.
I'm sorry, I'll make that motion, yes.
A second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Second recommendation is motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant lead mechanic position at the Public Works Department. This is both of them. These positions are very important. This one certainly is. The letter is in your packet for that, and the established grade and step for that position, for the recommended.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of the hiring board.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor say aye. Motion carries.
I have a question. How many vacant positions do we now have at the board?
There are currently 5, 1 HMT2 position and 4 HMT1 positions. So next will be the HMT2, and we'll work down through and fill all HMT1s after the 2.
Thanks, sir.
At our last, next on the agenda, at our last meeting, in a work session, we had a discussion about situation we have in the county where we have sanitation non-payers. The summary of that is in your packet. Across the county, we have a total number of customers that are using our sanitation department is 12,991. But we have 350 that are non-payers, with a total debt owed to the county of $200,000. And the yearly lost income out of that we see is about $62,000. In the process, we discussed this in our budget hearings last year in discussions, and as a group recognized that we needed to do something regarding this issue. And so the recommendation was that we put a notice of folks that are non-payers of actions that would be taken for collection, and give that about a 2-month period. That period ran from the 1st of January to the end of February. And with that, afterwards, we then had discussions to make sure that we did site checks of the sanitation department, make sure that they had the correct current citizens in the right address. They had discussions with the circuit clerk's office and the judges about the issuance of court summons, and the sheriff's office was involved in those discussions about the process of issuing. And then there was a discussion also of contacting the citizens again, and the idea that we would work with the citizens that were wanting to pay. That has been done. So the recommendation from the last work session was to initiate collection of, or notice and issuance of summons to the non-payers beginning the 1st of April.
How many people has contacted us to work with their past due bills?
There was only about 5 or 6 people that came in to either settle their bills or try to work to establish a recommended work with process, Commissioner Rich, to solve their debt situation.
Chairman, in September, I think our debt was close to 300,000. I think 287 is the number I was remembering. Do you recall how many non-payers there were? I mean, there are 350 now. How many non-payers did we have in September of 2021?
Do not recall that. I know that we do have that as a part of our budget hearing process.
Yeah, I went by the solid waste department today. Made my 3rd time to try to gain that information. I'd really like to know how many people and how much, what the dollar amount was that we collected. I mean, it's almost $100,000 difference from September to now in 5 months, and I'd just like to know how we got to that point. And I know in the past when we've wrote stuff off, the commission has voted on the write-off. And I just, I understand how we.
With 5 people coming in.
Yeah, with 5 people coming in, we're $100,000 less money to us.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very concerning to me.
So with that, the motion before us is to initiate, are we ready to initiate the collection process?
The only issue I have with it is I don't know if there was 100 people that's been marked off, if there was, I knew you had mentioned that there was some folks that had passed away and that there was, that some of that was found. And is this list of 350 people complete? Or, what's taken place from October 1 of 2021 to now, and how many people's dropped off? It's hard for me to support going after 350 people if there's another 150 that's been marked off, and the commission and the body hadn't approved that sign off or that mark off.
So we can defer this, but the motion is to go after all non-payers we have on the roll. But let's, if we need to, we can go and get additional information and defer this. And that's going to delay us another.
Well, I'm only one vote, but I would need to see, I would have to abstain from voting on this till I've seen the complete list.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we can set this aside till next meeting? I'm sorry?
Table it to next
I make
meeting.
a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Okay. We will do that, and we will get with our Director of Sanitation to get some answers there. Okay? All right, so,
Chairman, we'll need a second on that.
I'm sorry?
We have a motion, we'll need
I'll
a second.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was ready to accept that in full. And
I'll make the
then
second.
Move on. So we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
So with that, we will move into our work session. We have several items. We have a request, and we will discuss a request for an extension of the temporary employment of contract person in mapping and appraisal. And with that, let me turn it over to our Director of Commissioner of Revenue.
My chief mapper retired, y'all remember a year or so ago. We contracted Patrick Gamble to come in and work after hours, weekends, and he trains my current mapper, does work on the side sometimes when we need it. And that contract's just run out, and we just, I dropped the ball. I didn't realize the contract had run out, but we've still been paying him. It's been several months, but we would just like to continue that contract. I still have a need for him. And Mr. Taylor is working on contract. I don't have it yet, but she got it, okay.
Yeah.
So it's just basically the same things it was before. The old contract actually said for X amount of months to be renewed as needed. So I kind of took it as if we needed to keep going, just keep going, but evidently we needed to renew the contract. So I just like for you to, next meeting, just put that on the meeting to vote to renew that contract.
For how long would you think we would do?
Well, the contract before said 3 months, and that was kind of the confusion. I thought it was 6 months, so I kind of lost track of it. So I'm good with doing it 3 months at a time. It would be easier if there was I haven't read the contract yet that he's rewritten. Does it say 3 months, Mr. Porter?
No, the current contract that is proposed is an annual contract to be renewed as needed, but to be terminated by the commission on 30 days notice. So it's, you can terminate anytime you want to, but it's an annual renewable contract.
So I don't foresee needing him for a year, not a long-term thing, but, I lost all my educated people, and Candy's she's doing a great job, but she's still learning, and I haven't had a chance to send her to classes, many classes yet, to get her certification or anything like that. So I just like to keep him on for a little while.
And will we be able to see this contract before the next meeting?
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so the recommendation here is that we distribute the contract so the commissioners can see it and put it on our new business for our next meeting.
So I didn't even mention, but the contract is for $600 a month, is that right?
It is $750 a month.
$750 a month, okay.
Okay.
So that's however many hours I can get out of it. And we pay him $750 a month, whether he works 10 hours or 40 hours, but that's just so I can have it. And we do call him. He works for the state in Madison County. No, he works for the county, but so we do call him weekends, call him nights, call him on the cell phone. So it's not always just that he's here. It's just that I can have somebody on call like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next in the commission area, we have, we discussed at our last meeting grant process for the IDB, and we suggested at the last meeting that we would have a discussion day about establishing some criteria for that, and everybody was going to go take a look at or think about criteria that we could use and have a discussion today about the criteria. And the idea of this was we would have established criteria, and then at periodic periods during the year, then we would make acknowledgement to the community that they could submit requests for bids, a request for grants through the IDB fund, and we would use those criteria in our selection process. So let me open the floor for discussion of any recommendations on criteria.
I definitely think the economic impact of any request, job creations, additional revenues brought in, those type measures would be at the forefront for me because it is economic development money.
Okay.
You get roughly $50,000 a year that goes into that account. So it would be great if we could do 10,000 or 150,000 or 225,000, however the commission decided to do. I would like to see it done on an off year, a non-election year. That way we could have 1 year of growth in that fund and 1 year that we could do some small grants to help some of our municipalities or organizations. You know, if an organization had an ideal or something that they wanted to do that would bring more economic impact to the county.
I really like Jason's idea of the multiple avenues of allotment. And so by having it that way, we can have people request and we can determine.
Set a deadline, they turn in their applications, we have a special meeting to review those applications and discuss what economic impact that it would have on the community and decide if we wanted to put all in one or part in five.
And certainly advertise. I mean, we've got to advertise so that everybody knows what the expectations of the grant are and when it's due, and maybe even employ some services to help people fill out grants or whatever we need to do. But I think it definitely should be something that we can look at from a fairness standpoint of who can apply, what can they apply for, and of course what we've already stated with the job impact and economic development, because we want to make sure this money is doing what it was intended for with its taxation.
And make sure everybody, in the county is aware of the funding.
Would we want to limit it to physical construction and that type thing? Or would we open it up to sponsorship of festival tournaments, that type thing? I don't know. That's something we would need to consider.
We need to have a separate meeting about this, discuss all avenues.
I do know that occasionally we, the commission, as well as the communities, establish plans for county, whether it's city plans, Bridgeport or Stevenson plans for growth and economic development and those kind of things. And those plans will encompass housing initiatives, business initiatives, focus areas. We may also want to consider the criteria is it supporting one of those initiatives for the cities and the municipalities in the county as they're trying to grow economically, or an initiative that takes place. We have things like Tennessee River Line and Singing River Trail. I know the Singing River Trail just recently had their Shark Tank, whatever we call it, bank shark. But those kind of things.
I would be much more inclined to support if we had a kayak boat launch or a trail extension rather than to sponsor.
Hey, me.
Sponsor
On the keyboard.
an event for one of those entities. I'd rather it be something that would be there for future use.
I think I agree with that. Something that has a permanence to it as a continuing contributor to the county. So as I hear it, every other year, off election year, with the criteria as we have stated here, I think we could put that together, get it out to everybody, take a look at it and comment back on it, or we'll bring it to the next meeting and put this here, have one more review of it, and then try to move forward to establish it as a process that we'll have.
And maybe we could even partner up with TARCOG or somebody of that nature to help us with a a grading rubric for the grant and stipulations for the grant, so we're not just going from scratch on something like this.
Okay.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to take that money and prime the pump in some needed areas.
Okay, any further discussion?
I
Okay.
appreciate the commission considering this because it feels better to me than any one of us bringing a request because I've done it myself. I've had requests and I've brought it to the commission supported it, but it doesn't feel right, you know.
I don't
even the other municipalities out of the loop.
I don't like the feeling of us having money we can dole out.
Right.
It is certainly the people's money from every aspect of it, and it should be treated as such, and it should be fair,
Especially during election year.
In a corner when you bring, you know, if you don't do it, then you're taking money away from so and so.
Okay. With that, next on the agenda is there has been a request from the city of Stevenson for a funding request for a park at a boat ramp. Do we want to defer this to some point? I'm just giving the discussion. In the packet is the request that we have from the mayor. And it is a request of IDB funds. So let me open for
I
discussion.
remember right, I mean, this was also submitted at the time Bridgeport was, and this was left off the list for some reason. Is what I was under the impression.
Okay.
So,
I did see it later. I did not see it at the time, but so any discussion?
I mean, again, for me, I think this kind of goes, if we have an established grant process, this is the kind of submission that we're looking for. Without this process that I truly feel that we need, then we're definitely opening ourselves up for, well, you did it for this one, you did it for that one, so on and so forth. And so I think it would be a good protection for all of us involved, as opposed to us picking winners and losers, just on a simple request basis, but having a timeline, application process, a review team, all these things that would kind of check that in a more fair way.
I think this is an item that could wait until we establish our criteria and then let them apply along with other people, and then we could make our decisions at that time, but that's just my opinion.
Just since we have already done one this year, I wouldn't be opposed once we get our criteria together, if this fits within the criteria, since they, you know, turned it in early. I know we missed it, whatever, but maybe consider it for this year, and the amount they're requesting, the amount we already done for Bridgeport would be 1 year's worth of growth.
Okay.
You know, let's get our criteria together and look at it. I mean, this is a very worthwhile project.
And this, I would agree, this would support Singing River Trail. And that's what the city is trying to do.
And it's all gonna be, everything's just materials. I mean, all the labor is gonna be done, furnished by the city, so that money will be able to be used wisely.
Definitely adds to our outdoor space and the infrastructure it takes for us to, you know, not only our citizens to enjoy it, but our visitors to enjoy our outdoor spaces.
So I think the recommendation is for us to put together our criteria and our process, approve that, and then later consider this against that criteria or consideration. Okay, so we will defer this into a later meeting once we have got the criteria and process established. Next on the agenda is we had discussion of support for Jacob's Well and Flat Rock food banks, and both are in need of establishing some physical construction of facilities. And also the discussion was that we may be able to use some of the funds, CDBG funds that we have allocated for our computer-aided dispatch system to transfer there. I have this on the agenda. I talked with Commissioner Venable about this. We wanted to go make sure that we were in compliance with the use of CDBG funds. We have talked with TARCOG. Bottom line to this, there are some difficulties of allocating the CDBG funds for this. And so I have the note from TARCOG, who had coordinated this with ADECA, who is administers these funds. This note says that any adjustment of a CDBG CV project budget that exceeds 10% of total project cost, which is $50,000, 10% of our $500,000 grant, will require a formal amendment. The formal amendment process requires the advertising, holding of a public hearing, a detailed justification, a request letter, and a new project budget, in addition to proof of public hearing sent to ADECA for their review. If the formal amendment were to request the addition of construction activities, ADECA might not be inclined to approve, since the state wants to see all money spent down by April 2023. With the addition of a construction project, that would significantly slow down the project timeline, as it would require environmental review, design and engineering specs, develop bid process, Davis-Bacon, payroll, checking, etc. So the idea then maybe was allocation for food. And so the answer back is, when considering allocating funds for future year purchases of food equipment, ADECA views that type of transaction as an advance payment, which they do not allow. In order to release the funds, ADECA needs to see an invoice and a copy of the check. The only plausible option would be if the food pantry was able to establish a line of credit with a food distributor for future purchases. So I think we still have some work to try to figure out how we can provide support. There may be some opportunities with ARPA funds. As we've discussed before, ARPA funds, if we can establish a need either in increased growth of demand for food, or a cost that created a risk amount of where they were losing donations, then we can go and apply for the difference. So
How much money are we talking about here?
and the total of the two was $125,000.
Yeah, there was some discussion last time on fairness and how we would go about prorating the two requests. I've done some quick math. The Flat Rock Center, they're requesting $65,000. They have already built their pad, put the gravel in, done the necessary plumbing, electrical, and poured their pad. So they have roughly, with the $65,000 for the building cost, they'll have about $100,000 in their new building. Now, their building's an addition, so they don't have to put in a new septic tank and so forth. Jacobs Wells requesting $60,000, but they requested $12,000 a year for 5 years. So if you do $100,000 to Flat Rock, they're requesting $65,000, and then Jacobs Wells building cost will be $117,000. They were requesting $60,000. So 65 to 100, that's 65%. So 65% of 117,000, 76,000. So if we gave Flat Rock $65,000 to give the same share and the same amount to Jacobs Well, would be $76,000. And 76,000 and 50. If you went and done the math the other way, Jacobs Wells request was $60,000, which is 51% of $117,000. So that would put us giving $51,000 to Jacobs Well. So if we done, to the Flat Rock Center. So if you done the 51%, it's total of $111,000. If we do the 65%, it's a total of $141,000. Just I mean, that's just my math, and the only two fair ways I could see to go about making sure we were funding both at the same percentage, in the same amount. And I know there was a lot of discussion about ARPA funds and about CARES Act money and about, the grant dollars that we got through the DECA, but, we also have a general fund cash balance that, that's not a huge amount of money against our cash balance if that's something we decided to do.
So with the Jacobs Well request of the annual payment for 5 years, is that something we could do with the ARPA money?
The ARPA money, the ARPA money process is, as I said, you have to establish the risk, the loss amount. And so it's not a matter of funding $60,000. It's a matter of determining what had been their pre-pandemic donations were and what donations were in pandemic, or what has been the increased demand that has driven up costs. And that becomes the risk amount that we're allowed to fund to, which would probably, I suspect, not quite reach that amount of money.
Yeah, and it would probably, that 5 year would run us past the deadline on the funding to be spent.
So we still need to look at options. We can put the option of general fund as a consideration to fund these two. And I would propose that we look at the general fund and bring back some data on that for our next meeting. I know this is getting a little time sensitive, but we need to do some look at that and look at other expenditures or encumbrances to the general fund and see where we are. And bring that back on the table for the meeting.
I agree. We had our reimbursement off the CARES Act. I don't feel comfortable spending below that amount until our federal audit is over on the end, in case we owe anything back. We need a certain amount of money in cash reservoir in case of, a tornado or natural disaster. So there's that. I think $1.6 million is the amount that we got reimbursement on CARES Act.
I believe that's correct, 1.6.
And whatever the commission feels comfortable in a cash balance, I say we need at least $2 million in a cash balance. If you spend that like that in a natural disaster, so we'll need to, in reserves, at least $3.6 million besides the encumbrances already obligated to our cash balance.
Yeah, but that's just, we need to get that data and we need to bring back and put that on the table and see. And we really do need to make a determination of where we think we need to be in terms of if we were to have a natural disaster, because we would have to fund the response up front and then FEMA pay back later and pay back at a percentage. So we're looking at what is the percentage of.
FEMA is a very slow.
Yeah, we're experiencing that. But we do need to look at this, I agree, and we can bring that back.
And we do have the obligation of our local roads from last year.
Exactly. That's what we need to look at. Okay. So with that, we're okay with, in the next work session, bringing that data back to take a look at opportunities to use those funds. Next on the list is Rescue Squad. The reason that is on the list is the Rescue Squad has asked for $30,000 and we approved that with resolution out of our ARPA funds. It was part of our ARPA plan. We got the update, we got the final rule, and then we got an update to the final rule. And the update created more bureaucracy and the ability to execute those funds.
When did the update come out? I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. We just got a note from IEC that they will provide it to us, but their note, the email was that the additional paperwork and justification required to submit funds to a sub-recipient, which is what the Rescue Squad would be. The question on the table, this is $30,000. Do we continue to follow the ARPA fund process to get that, which appears to be burdensome, or do we look at general fund to provide that and put that 30,000 towards something else?
I say, I mean, we can't vote in the work session, but I say that we go with the letter of the law that we were under. You know, when we evaluated this and when IAC evaluated it, you know, it was well within the parameters of
Yes,
what
it was.
IAC and we understood the final rule. So I would say leave it out of the ARPA funds. Worst case scenario, we'd have to pay it back at the audit, but I don't think that we would, since we were operating under the current guidelines.
We won't, since we do have an email that came in last week from IEC, we would want to be, it would just take us a little longer, but we could get through that process and make sure that we are compliant with it.
I mean, this is this life or death situation with them right now, this on the doors or whatever?
No, they can still support what the hospital would need if we were to have another pandemic situation, you know, where they are a reserve, I'll use the term reserve facility, that we could do testing there, and it's indoors. Okay. It's just that you have to now manually open and close those doors. So we'll stay where we are, and we'll look to see what is required to support ARPA. Okay, with that, let's move to Public Works, and we have local road resurfacing. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, meetings back, the discussion centered around local roads and how we could potentially do more on the local road front, and discussion centered around potential one-time money or other sources, and what we may do and what may be feasible to stretch out that program and accomplish more within a year's time. So in your information, hopefully you'll find a sheet titled Public Works, and I'd like to walk through that, those figures, please. So there are two major components. One is labor and the other is local road resurfacing title, and I'll start with labor. All indications of doing more and achieving more as it relates to local road resurfacing revolve around road preparation. And to accomplish more road preparation, there is no alternate way that we see other than additional personnel and crew power to accomplish that. So these titles and figures represent that, and that crew that we would recommend would be HMT 3, 2 HMT 2s, and 2 HMT 1s. And so the total obligation is per year. And pursuant to the last discussion of the 3-year period, then that dollar figure looks like that to accomplish the 3 years in hopes of more local road resurfacing. And while we're on this number, I would add that realizing that we're talking one-time dollars, and that's tricky as it relates to personnel, we understand that. Then we would also offer a consideration for a reserve of equal amount to be held within our cash balance, and also be compatible to be used for this same amount for 3 years. In the event that revenues do not uprise, or we see that future funding of this level is not possible, then we would seek natural attrition to reduce those positions. But hopefully the 3 years that this would achieve, in addition to 3 years of reserve, would give us ample time to reduce that without anything abrupt.
So quickly, let me ask, what's the number, 600 or 1.2?
So 600 is 3 years worth of that salary.
And the reserve?
600,000.
So is that 1.2 you're asking to be held? I misunderstand.
Yeah, so 111, we would make sure the 111 cash balance had a minimum of 600,000 there.
Okay.
In support of this number.
Okay.
In the event that after 3 years, this was not sustained.
Okay.
Moving on down the page, 25 mile per year goal. We have been able to sustain 10 miles of that in-house with Public Works budget. So that's that first 10-mile breakout. And then the 15-mile additional to achieve the 25-mile total, we would need funding to support that. And that's broken down into materials and labor and equipment for a total of $900,000 per year, adding those and the breakdowns provided.
Okay. So in and above, again, I'm trying to make sure I understand, in and above what is in your budget, the 397 is currently in your budget for the 10 miles.
No, sir.
Okay, so it's new budget item.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we would need $1.1 million per year for the duration of 3 years to get to 25 miles for us to do our current list of worst roads.
Yes, sir. So the good news is that the 50-mile list we put in front of you that's poor condition roadways, in 2 years we feel that's a reasonable goal.
Plus 25 more miles.
Yeah.
In 3 years, if we funded this for 3
Yes,
years.
yes. Counting the current cycle we're working right now.
Right.
So there was discussion too, I'll just add this while we're mulling this over. And Mr. Venable was correct in what he stated, that February 8, 2021 is when the current 22-mile plan that's in place now, that's currently in progress, was approved. And since that date, there have been 9.5 miles paved. County Road 350, 708, 267, 489, 36, and 3 miles of 491. So 9.5 miles, about 10 miles a year, which is well over a year, but that's current. And then also over 16 miles has been prepared. So in discussion, and not just my opinion, but in discussion with folks that know more about getting it done than me on what we can accomplish, we feel with this additional crew that 25 miles is a feasible goal.
Okay.
Seems like the hot topic of the county is roads here lately, of late. Have you had any discussion? I mean, have you had any people calling?
Cell phone ring today?
15 work orders.
You got any ditch work?
Well, no, I call it.
You got any ditch work orders?
That's good.
Well,
the question we're going to have to deal with is source of funding for this. And I will propose that we need to have a special work session to look at funding for this and how we establish that. And I know that you're doing some data. Looks right now that is about a month out, so I believe we need to target no later than a month to have a special work session to resolve that, as well as look at how we can fund this. There are options for funding. ARPA is one. There are other options for us to consider, and we need to have those discussions.
are we done with the current list of roads? I mean, is their crew caught up to the point, a month from now, will they be caught up to the point that you need some decisions on some roads where they have something to be working on?
Yeah, no, we're safe on work as far as preparation. So we're still preparing roads and we're making our way through that list, but there's still much to be paved and miles to be prepared. So we're still have plenty of work.
Make sure I'm clear and we're clear with everybody. We're talking about the 870 miles of local roads that we chip seal, not the 230 miles of hot tar mix that are major and minor collectors. We're doing okay in those areas, but if we can't shake out this kind of money over 3 years, can we look at possibly doing some pavement preservation to extend the life of some of those roads to get us a little further down, over in the calendar. Pavement preservation, if we catch our roads in not so bad a shape, which most of our major and minor collectors are at, 85 RDOT rating or better, we can catch some of those roads before they start getting water intrusion, base failures, and that type of stuff. Would that be an option? And that wouldn't require a payroll obligation that we would have to sustain.
Let me offer that we've had that discussion. I absolutely agree with you. I believe if we don't take that kind of approach, we're paving bad roads while good roads we could preserve are going bad.
Right.
And we extend our miles of accomplishment per year if we integrate both of those activities into our strategy for our roads. And so I think we could say about 5 or 7 years. If we do preservation, we get about another 5 to 7 years. Am I wrong? You can tell me if I'm wrong.
10 to 15 is reasonable in a lot of situations. It depends on the route application.
Truly help us.
And that's all on hot mix, major and minor collectors to 230 miles of that type of road. Is there any pavement preservation processes that we could do on some of our better chip seal roads?
I think it's probably less of an ideal application than the hot mix network. However, yes, I think that's definitely out there. I would say this though, that the 50 miles that we offered up, I would turn attention to the bad roads first, and then work into some pavement preservation as it relates to local roads. As the other, the 20% roughly of our network that's hot mix pavement, just as a reminder, you guys have chosen pavement preservation, and those projects are actively going now. So County Road 38 will be a preservation road as well as 88. So
Okay.
we're really hopeful. And
So let me, for the sake of time, given we have another event at 5:30, I know we want to get through this, but I do believe we do need to have a special work session where we can sit down and look at all the options and the implications. Next, Rich Drive, Windy Hill subdivision.
the next document I'll reference should be in your information. It's a letter, a petition, and explanation of some history of Ridge Drive in Windy Hill subdivision. That letter is dated March 14th, 2022. The letter details the history, as the petitioner recalls, about the acceptance of that subdivision and the roads within that subdivision and the timeline of construction of those roads. And I asked for clarification on acceptance, in particular Hess Drive, as there is Ridge Drive, rather, as Hess Drive and Walker Cemetery Drive show up in our inventory and Hess does not. So it is identified as an oversight in this petition, and I ask for a correction as it relates to our inventory. After receipt of this, we made inspection on Ridge Drive, and the following photos are a result of that inspection. And basically the photos are taken at locations where there are issues. Most are minor, and in this site visit, I can attest that it does look like the things mentioned in this letter are correct as far as construction date and being constructed at the same time, and constructed with the intent of meeting the specifications that were in place at the time, which at that time there were no subdivision regulations. However, there were road acceptance specifications and regulations at the time.
So the recommendation is to accept Rich Drive. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think there are potentially a couple of schools of thought on that. We tried to approach this from a fact-finding mission on connecting the dots on, if there were any reasons why Hess Drive were either not accepted based on some construction technique that had taken place or some issues that had been found at the time, and we were unable to discover any of that. So going as far as talking with the county engineer, that was the county engineer at the time, he remembers visiting the site, remembers the roads being constructed, but at that juncture in time, he ended up leaving and was working somewhere else. So not sure if it was something related to that or why Ridge Drive is not in our inventory. I wish I had a clear and concise answer for you, but I just don't know. I just don't know why it's not.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
Do you have to drive down either the Windy Hills, the Hess Drive or the Cemetery Road to access Rich Drive, or do they all come off of another road?
Ridge Drive connects with Hess Drive. So County Road 475 leads to Hess Drive. Turn on the Hess Drive, and then Ridge Drive connects to Hess. And Walker Cemetery connects to County Road 475 in a different location.
They were all constructed at the same time, the best of your knowledge and of what you can find out.
Inspection present day, it looks like they were all constructed at the same time and consistent with petitioner claims.
You mentioned fact finding. Did you find any action by the commission or Public Works that said that this road is to be considered or to be rejected, or any mention of it at all?
So we first did a search on this issue has come to light more than one occasion, and it's led to search, but we've never been petitioned from what would then be the developer previously. But to answer your question, the last time this topic came up back in 2018, we requested a search through the minutes, and nothing was found to show acceptance of the roads within our network, period. We requested again once this, on this latest time, and there was minimal information found, and it only related to Walker Cemetery Road. So, and it was basically a resolution changing the name of Walker Cemetery Road to County Road 775, which in our inventory list, it shows 775, and in the details, it says Walker Cemetery Road.
So out of the three, two show up on your inventory list.
Yes, sir.
And the third does not, but all built at the same time under the same specs.
To the best I can tell, digging along the side of the road, it looks like the pavement thickness is there, the width of the pavement's correct, the right of way is correct on the flat. The pavement condition looks the same as the other roads. Relatively the same.
And so they meet all the county standards.
I feel certain in telling you that they meet the standards in 1985, which would have been the standards that the roads were built to. Meeting current standards is a different matter.
So this guy purchased the subdivision from
This petitioner, yes, sir.
in 1996, and so this road's just been in limbo ever since until now.
I checked the maintenance records, and according to our maintenance records, we have done zero maintenance on this road.
So that's basically in pretty good shape for the years.
For 25-year-old pavement.
How many tenths of miles or miles of road are we talking about?
It's approximately a half mile. I measured 2,699.97 feet, so about a half mile on Ridge Drive.
Chip seal pavement?
No, sir, hot mix.
Hot mix, but
Approximately 2 inches.
Okay, do we want to put this on the new business for our next meeting to accept the road into the county system? Or defer? With
I
more
can't see
information?
how we don't, and if we have 2 of the 3 roads constructed at the same time, I can't see how we continue to say this road's not ours. I mean, that's my personal thought on it.
Okay,
I agree with that.
anybody else? Okay, if no further discussion, we will add it to the new business agenda to consider adding Ridge Drive and Windy Hill subdivision to the county roads. Okay, with that, that concludes our work session. So let me now proceed to reports from the staff. County Administrator,
Have that one today, thank you.
County Engineer,
No, sir, thank you.
County Attorney.
Just comment on the last item, when you do that, you need to show that it's not being added under the current standards.
Correct.
That it was a mistake and should have been added with the other 2. So we correct those minutes that may or may not exist, but just to include it with the other.
I said that's an oversight
Right.
from
Exactly.
the time of construction.
Okay, other department heads, any comments? Okay, thank you. So now we'll proceed to comments from the commission. District 4, Commissioner McBride.
I'd like to say thank you, ladies, for coming and speaking with us on this matter. As a former educator, I have a heart for children and all these men here and all you do. Appreciate all you do. I can remember the struggles we had. I had twins and we weren't making a lot of money. And I remember how difficult it was to pay our daycare and work. And, you know, we can help in any way that we're able to help, and please follow his advice, Mr. Nance's advice, and check with the chamber, and we'll work with him if we can and see if we can resolve some of these issues. Also, please keep our men and women in the military in your prayers. We have things going on. I have a daughter in the Marine Corps, and I definitely worry about her. And thank you, Mr. Oliver, for coming and speaking with us as well. That's all.
Okay, District 3, Commissioner Butler.
Yes, thank you again, ladies. Appreciate what you do. I know it comes from heart, the passion of doing it. I know there's a great need there, and it's the same thing we're facing in the schoolhouses of not having enough people, and so many spots are being left undone. So we've got to look at a lot of different things, but I think certainly from a workforce development, just how are we going to grow if we can't provide those basic essentials for folks? And so great pursuit there. I had the pleasure this Saturday of working with a group from J38 that came and helped me with a cleanup project at Sportsman's Landing. Outstanding crew. I would encourage folks to go out and see what they've done there at Sportsman's Landing on the walking trail there by the water. Collected piles of trash that came out of the river, which I know the fishermen are probably not watching this broadcast, but please make sure that nothing gets in the river. And the same thing for anything that lands in a ditch, potentially can get in a river. And it is the plastics break down and it gets into our fish, and it's just terrible. But just the amount of trash that washes up from the river just in high water times is absolutely stunning. We have a beautiful place, and we need to do everything we can to protect it. One final thing, would it be possible, instead of adding an additional work session, could we just have a special session like we're having tonight on April 26th after our regular meeting to talk about the roads, or would that give you enough time? Or
I think there's a lot to be discussed. We can look at that. Okay. District 2, Commissioner Venable.
I'd like to echo what my colleagues said. I appreciate you guys coming and bringing this problem more to our attention. We're already kind of aware of it, but maybe we can all put our heads together and do something beneficial. Wanted to kind of make an announcement here. Anybody that fishes or fishes tournaments or enjoys fishing, we had the big bass splash this last Saturday. It was a huge success. Really enjoyed it. Folks came here from all over the southeast, and was a part of our community for 3 days. There is a organization called Team Vet. They're having a tournament out of Waterfront on April the 9th, and the proceeds from that go to post-traumatic stress disorder, people that vets that are suffering from that, and first responders. It's a really great cause. Safe daylight. They blast off. It should be several hundred or more boats. They're gonna have a helicopter. Fireworks. It's supposed to be a really neat event. Plus vendors. So anybody that interested in fishing it, they can find it on Facebook or be down there April 9th before Safe Daylight.
And Jason, you said Team Vet?
Team Vet, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rich, District 1.
I'd like to echo just everything that the other one says. Ladies, y'all do an outstanding job. My wife's on the board at the daycare in Stevenson at the Methodist Church. I hear compliments, and then I hear tragic stories every day. Basically, we're having about the same issues now. There, of course, everybody's having it everywhere. But who would have thought 20 years ago we'd be talking about things that's going on in our general public right now? I mean, unheard of stuff. It's just, we're going down a road that nobody ever figured that the destination was going to be this way. But we definitely have to get together and work this issue out, because we can't even open up our restaurants. I mean, drive-through only. We can't get no help, all over the county. But I appreciate y'all coming, spending your time there, and my heart goes out to y'all. And we need to have a daycare appreciation day set aside for everyone in the county. It would be my thought, but that would be cool to have. But that's all I got to say. And any local college basketball team still in the Final Four? I mean, no, see, Miami. Never mind. That's okay. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rich. I'm just echo everything everybody said. But I would like, for the record, if this is not appropriate, tell me. I'd like for the record for you to remind me that as a member of the Chamber Board, I need to get the Chamber to set up a meeting for us to just try to bring the community together within a month to have this discussion. Is that something we don't have to vote on? It's just something I'm acknowledging I need to get done. Okay, and I think that's from the recommendation of all the commissioners. We need to do that, and we'll work to try and do that. Okay. Thank you very much. So our next meeting is scheduled for 11 April 2022, and we were planning to go to an executive session. It is not a time critical issue, executive session, given we have a contract. Though the contract is expiring, it does automatically renew on a month-to-month basis, and I think we can take that into executive session next meeting, if there's no objection. Now, do I need a motion to, given it's on the agenda, to not proceed to executive session? No?
Go ahead.
Okay. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.